This is your first ride in a Ferrari. Why are you crying like that? My God, look at those stairs. Hi guys, welcome back to Piston.my. It's a very special day today because we are going to be driving the new Ferrari Roma. Start with the design of the new Ferrari Roma. As you can see, it has the very traditional, very classic cabin behind, long bonnet proportions that has come to define a GT machine. Obviously, in front, it's a mighty engine. I'll get to that later, but let's speak about the design. Up front here, you can see this long protruding nose. Like it or hate it, design is always subjective. And then you have this grille at the bottom here. This grille, no matter what color you're going to have your Ferrari in, this grille is going to be the same color. So it matches the body design. And then while we're up front here, you can check the headlights are a bit squinted. Down here is the daytime running lights, which also doubles up as the turn signal. So this very clean proportions up here is broken by this rectangular looking thing over here. This rectangular looking thing is actually a radar. This radar is the one that controls things like the lane keep assist, things like automatic cruise control. So all of that is managed by this little thing over here. So let's move to the side. 20-inch wheels, Michelin Pilot Sport 4, I think. Yes, Pilot Sport 4. And then you get this classic Ferrari shield over here. And then this is your lock-unlock button. So if you don't need to take the key out of your pocket, you just need to press this. And then I really like this door latch because you push it in, the car is locked right now, but if you push it in, it's how you unlock the car. And then you move back here, and then this is where things start to get a bit interesting. The the rear brake lights are very unique. This is typically Ferrari Roma. The brake lights just illuminate right here, which also doubles up as the turn signal. This car comes with the optional sports exhaust, massive rear diffuser over here. This is something that I'm guessing this is the fog lamp. I'll open the boot in a minute. And this is the classic proportions of a Ferrari GT machine. Of course, being a classic GT machine, you have the engine up front, and you get quite a generous boot space at the back here. So it's electronic. Its opening and closing is through opening only, of course, is through this electronic latch, and you get quite a generous. It's about 250 liters. So, and then what you can do is you can also this is optional, but you can opt for collapsible seats. So the seats can then collapse, obviously, and you can put in things like your golf bag and such. But besides that, it's also quite a generous boot. And I also like the fact that it's almost flat over here and it's so low down. So, being a Ferrari owner, you don't really have time to work out with muscles and such. So whatever you're going to load in here, it's easy to just throw in. I want to bring your attention to this plug over here. So this basically highlights, or rather specifies, every single specification this Roma has. So things like Apple CarPlay, ADAS full pack, which means advanced driver assistance systems, brake calipers in aluminium, anti-stone chipping film, colored inner details. Everything that the Roma has is listed here. And this is not just a cheap plaque, cheap plastic plaque, it's embossed. Everything is embossed. Even this QR code is embossed. This thing over here is actually a spoiler, but you can't control the spoiler. You can't just press a button and get the summon the spoiler up. The spoiler comes up through the Manettino setting. So the car decides when it needs more downforce, and it will engage the spoiler. Now we talk about the engine. I'm going to show you the engine, but what I want to show you first is, need to unlock the car. What I want to show you first is how to open the engine. So you get inside, and there's a latch at the center here, which almost feels like it's the latch to eject a very annoying passenger. Reminds me of a certain scene from a movie that we all love. Ejectocito cars.
Marico! Ejectocito cars! It worked! I love this button!
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you one of the most beautiful engines to grace this world. The 3.9 liter twin turbo V8. Can't get my eyes off it. Such a beautiful thing. Produces about 612 horsepower, 750 newton meters of torque. 750 newton meters of torque. It does about 0 to 100 in about 3.9 seconds, 3.6 seconds I think. And it's just a very, very powerful machine. So this engine is designed to minimize, or rather eliminate altogether, turbo lag. So I'm going to take it for a drive right now. Looks like it's going to be raining soon, but this car has enough electronic aids to control even the most extreme weather. Guys, I just want you to see this engine. I just want you to appreciate how beautiful this engine is. Ferrari knows that it's such a beautiful engine that they didn't even bother covering it up with any plastic. Of course, these are all plastic bits over here, but this bit over here is pure metal. It's pure heavy metal. And the other thing that you should notice is, look at how far back the engine is. It's not a front engine, it's a front mid engine, because it's located right behind, slightly behind the front axle. This gives you super sharp handling. Let's take it for a drive. So before we get on the way, let's talk a bit about the interior first. Okay, being a Ferrari, you can actually customize almost everything about the interior. You know, everything from the color, from the stitching, from the way you want the steering wheel to be, everything except for the basic layout of the car, of course. If you notice in this car, even the roof is leather. Everything is customizable. This car is obviously in suede. Whether or not this will stand the test of time will tell. But anyway, talking about the ergonomics of the car, as you can see, it's actually a very, very comfortable sitting position. It's spot on. There's nothing about this that I can complain. Let's talk about the steering wheel. Notice something about the steering wheel. This is actually the first generation Ferrari steering wheel that comes almost with everything is touchpad or touchscreen. Here, everything about this is everything touchscreen. There's no start button anymore. In fact, there's just this. So the car is started now. If I press this, the car is stopped. For me, for right now, if I want to start this car, get on the brakes and I press and hold, start back on. So everything is touchpad. Whether or not you like it, I still prefer the dials and the buttons and all, simply because Ferrari, especially the 488s, the 458s, I think they made some really nice quality buttons. So I really like the touch and feel of those. This takes some getting used to. You know, if I want to toggle on this massive screen, which by the way is also a first time for a Ferrari, that everything over here is is located in this massive screen right in the center here. No complaints whatsoever, because everything is crystal clear, is crisp, and it still has this classic Ferrari RPM dial right in the center. It just simply catches your eye, and that's the first thing. If this Ferrari was mine, I would have opted for the sport steering wheel, which would have had the RPM meters right at the top here. I think those are super cool. Moving on from that, check out how you set the air conditioning. This is super cool, and it feels really high quality as well. Even though this is plastic, but it just doesn't feel like it. I really like that. And talking about this massive screen back here again, this is also, let me try to see how do I do this. There you go, Apple CarPlay. Okay, so my entire Apple screen, my Apple CarPlay is now located on the screen. Yeah, anything. Spotify, check this out. So it's just everything is located on this massive screen, and I control the screen via this touchpad thing over here. That's my maps, and if I just feed my location, I'll just get directions fed back to me on this massive screen over here, which is fantastic, I think. Yeah, and press and hold, and it brings me back to this screen over here. And if I press View Max, this button here, it'll just give me one massive GPS screen. How cool is this? This is fantastic. Okay, so that's the screen. There is also another small screen over here that controls the everything to do with the side mirrors, the lights, the parking sensors, the auto start stop, the reverse sensor. Everything is located on that. Then this massive vertical screen that looks like an iPad mini this is where you control things like your air conditioning settings, your navigation. This is not your Google Maps, this is the Ferrari inbuilt maps, I think. And this is of course your phone. Apple CarPlay is active, so it overrides the onboard system. If you don't have Apple CarPlay or you're using Android, you can connect via Bluetooth, and then your audio system, your radio connections are all over here, right? Having driven this earlier today, I do have to say that the angle at which this screen is at, the way it's angled, and when the sun is, at the top, the reflection on this is pretty bad, and you won't be able to see a lot of the controls. But so if Ferrari could just tilt this just a bit, and I think that would solve that reflection issue. But other than that, no issues. The onboard user interface is fantastic. This though is pure magic. This is Ferrari's version of a throwback to mid-90s, 80s, 70s Ferraris. This is a replica or a throwback to open gauge shifters, back when Ferraris used to offer manual transmission, and those manual transmission used to come with open gauge shifters. This is reverse, this is manual, automatic, and this is launch control. How cool is this? This is fantastic. And what you get over here are a bunch of it's quite a big storage space over here. You get 2 USB slots. You also get an auxiliary power unit, so that's really good. And you have a cup holder over here, which I use for the smart tag, and brilliant. And you get two seats at the back. They come with ISOFIX mounts. I have plans to demonstrate how those work later. And then from here you get this quite generous glove compartment over here, so this is also quite handy. And this is an option. So this basically gives your passenger all the onboard details, such as RPM, which gear you are in, how the drive is being delivered to the road, RPM, your speed, everything. And then this is of course your radio, your navigation, and your settings in terms of display and such. Your passenger will also be able to control air conditioning settings. They will be, because it's dual zone, so they will be able to control their own climate and such. So everything about the interior is beautiful. Another thing that I haven't told you about is this pad over here, the steering wheel over here. This is the Menatino. This is how you control what mode you want to be in. So I'm just going to flip this. Watch. Now it moves to wet. Then I flip it again. Moves to comfort. I flip it again. It moves to sport. Check out how smooth the display is. Now watch what happens when I press it. When I press this, it adjusts the suspension for bumpy roads. So that means the suspension gets softer. Brilliant, fantastic. This over here, this is to adjust your wipers. And this over here is for your cruise control. This is for your indicator switches. You cancel it this way. Indicators. So there's nothing at the back here. And this, of course, is where the magic happens. This is how you lay power down to the road. These are your shifter pedals. Typical Ferrari shifter pedals. They are fixed pedals, so they don't move around with the steering wheel. So which is great, because sometimes you're going through fast bends, so you know exactly where your pedals are. Brilliant. The interior, this Ferrari Roma, is undoubtedly a very, very nice place to be in. And if you choose to have your Ferrari customized, which I think you should, you can have it almost any way that you want it to be. Now, let's take it for a drive. So let's get back to driving this car. I'm in Puchong right now, on the Puchong highway right here, and it's so interesting because it's such an easy car to drive. In fact, it just blends into traffic. Don't get me wrong, it's ultimately still a Ferrari. A Ferrari sticks out like a rose among thorns in traffic. But what I mean by incredibly easy is the proportions of the Roma. The proportions of the Roma make it blend into traffic. I'm going past massive trucks. I'm going past, and I have all these kapchais overtaking me left, right. I'm, following cars as I usually would in any other car. And it's just so easy. I've driven other cars, F12, FF, Lusos, even the F8, the 488s, 458s, and those are wide cars. And those create quite a statement on the road. But the Roma though, it blends into traffic. People still cram their necks to want to take a look at the car. But that's not because it's a big car. That's because it's a beautiful car. Even from where I'm sitting, I can see the curves over the wheel arches. I can see the curve over the bonnet. It's such an occasion, incredibly beautiful. You have to experience this. And then you put your foot down, and immediately you are just pushed back into your seat. I didn't even put my foot down. I just tickled the throttle a bit and it just goes. This twin turbo engine is designed for minimal to zero turbo lag. Put your foot down and powers like that. That's what I mean. And I hope you heard that, because that takes me to my next point. The criticism some have leveled on the Roma as well as modern Ferraris. So modern Ferraris have to comply by modern regulations, right? So not only are there CO2 regulations out there, but there are also noise regulations in certain markets around the world. So which means that Ferrari has had to under-engineer the sound of modern Ferraris such as the Roma. But under-engineering is it's not the right term at all, because this, hope you hear that, because it's such a nice sound Of course, it's not as ganas, not as burbly, not as, brutal as Ferraris of old, but it's still an incredibly beautiful sound. I love it. And the other thing about the Roma is just how incredibly practical it is. This is a Ferrari that you can just go about your daily business in. Right? You can go to your office, you can take it to the market, you can go tapao your chicken rice, your curry mee, your roti canai. You can do it all in the Roma. If this car was made in Malaysia, it will come with teh tarik hooks, but it doesn't. So that's what I mean. You can. It's just such an incredibly practical Ferrari. It has a massive boot, and the other practical thing that I like about this Roma is this thing right here, which I'll demonstrate now. The one thing that I really like about the Ferrari Roma is just how practical it is. It's incredibly easy to drive, and it has quite a decent boot. But another thing that it really has is that it comes with ISOFIX mounts, which means if I were to own the Ferrari Roma, or if you were to own the Ferrari Roma, you could take your kids around, like how I'm taking my boy Vihan around in the Roma, because I've mounted his child seat onto the ISOFIX mounts. Are you comfortable, boy? He looks a bit sleepy, he just had his lunch. Are you alright? So yeah, there are not a lot of practical supercars out there, but I tell you, this Ferrari Roma is capable of some surprising things, because not only does it have supercar performance, but it also is family friendly. But having said that, don't get me wrong, this is not a Lusso T or Ferrari FF. This is not a 2+2. It is something Ferrari calls a 2+. There are back seats, yes, and it's practical, no doubt, but they're not full-fledged seats. They can lay flat, and you can mount things, you can keep things on them. They can lay flat, so you can put your golf bag in them. So there are things. It has its practicality, but they're not full-fledged seats. Amazing, isn't it? It comes with ISOFIX mounts. If I'm not mistaken, this is among the first Ferraris to come with ISOFIX mounts. So, which amazing lah. At the end of the day, if you want to go and take this car to a track day, you very well can. Because the performance on this thing is fantastic, I tell you. And it comes with super sharp steering. The steering feeling on this thing is amazing. And I'm going through a smart tech lane right now. And when I usually do this in cars like an F12 or an FF or a Lusso, it's quite intimidating because of the width of the smart tech lane. But not in the Roma. It's just glide through. No dramas whatsoever, and this is a great place to demonstrate the sound. Such a nice thing, and you just got to turn the steering just a little, and you can feel the car just tucking in on the right hand side, and it's such a nice car to drive, because you have the practicality side to it, you have the supercar side to it, and you have some super performance to it. And of course, with all that power comes great responsibility. So Ferrari has engineered electronic safety nets in the form of ADAS, Advanced Driver Aid System, which I think incorporates things like automatic cruise control, rear cross traffic alert. I'm not quite sure if the Roma has that, but these are all electronic technologies that make up ADAS. ADAS comes in different forms for different manufacturers, but what it means is that it's supposed to be a driver aid, and it does aid the driver. And then after that, you have, of course, things like EBD, electronic brake force distribution. You have traction control, and from years and years and years of Ferrari winning in Formula 1, you wouldn't expect anything lesser from Ferrari engineered cars. I'm going through a McDonald's drive-thru over here and it's just such a laugh because it's so easy. So there's no doubt that the Ferrari Roma is actually something really special. It may not have that classic sports Ferrari presence. You know, the sports Ferraris, anywhere that you see those 488, the F8s, you know that those are incredible Ferraris capable of some astonishing speeds. But every time you see a Roma, don't ever doubt that it's a lesser Ferrari, because it is not. It's still capable of some devastating performance. 0 to 100, a little over 3 seconds. How can anybody doubt the performance of a Ferrari? This Ferrari is more about going about your daily life, going to a nice dinner with your friends, hanging out on a nice evening out, and then on the weekends, you go and tear up your local circuit. Because this Ferrari really can do all of that and still be able to take you to the market, still be able to take you to the office as well. This is the ultimate do-it-all Ferrari. This is the ultimate GT Ferrari that builds up on the classic Ferrari GT tradition. The Ferrari Roma is now in the market here in Malaysia for a little over 960,000 before taxes and before options. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see here today, as usual, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, and I'm Keshi Dillon.